Donald Trump has built much of his political brand around one claim, that he is the ultimate deal maker. That's what he's always said. But right now, two of his biggest foreign policy and economic bets are raising the same question. Can maximum pressure actually produce the deal Trump wants? In Iran, months of war and economic pressure have failed to produce a final settlement. And on trade, Trump's latest confrontation has ended not in a deal, but in another round of tariffs. US-Canada talks have broken down, with Trump imposing 50% tariffs on around $20 billion of Canadian goods. Trump has also announced 50% tariffs on Canadian autos, parts and steel from January 2027. Canada has vowed retaliation. The stakes are high because the two countries are already part of the USMCA trade agreement. The Canada dispute therefore shows the central contradiction in Trump's approach. Tariffs are being used to force concessions, but when negotiations break down, the response is often more tariffs rather than a final agreement. Canadians are now calling Trump a bully rather than a deal maker, as he claims he is.
We had a great relationship with the United States for a very long time. And in my lifetime, we've always been friends, and now we're not friends anymore, and it's going to hurt everybody, and it's just sad. I find it very sad. We have a bully in Washington, and he's just hitting us all with the big stick all the time. And we're not going to put up with it. Canada isn't. We'll fight back.
Trump has, however, secured a number of trade agreements and frameworks. So the story is not that his tariff strategy has produced no deals. The bigger question is how final and comprehensive those deals really are. With the European Union, the US has agreed on a framework that puts a 15% US tariff on most EU goods. But steel, aluminium and regulatory issues remain contentious. The UK was the first major country to sign a trade deal with Trump, but disputes over its digital services tax have created a new flashpoint. India and the US have also been negotiating a trade agreement with agriculture, market access, tariffs, and India's purchases of Russian oil among the key issues. With China, Washington and Beijing have reached a series of truce and arrangements, but technology, rare earths, export controls, and industrial policy remain unresolved. Washington's latest tariff investigations, including forced labor measures, mean countries like Japan and South Korea still face uncertainty over the final tariff burden. Trump, in other words, has been able to force negotiations and secure concessions, but many of the biggest trade relationships, they remain in flux even now, and he's heading right into the midterms. And that leaves Trump facing a broader test of his deal-making model. Half his term is nearly over, and his deal-making skills, his biggest trump card, is in question. Tariffs initially generated more revenue for the US government, but the Treasury reported a net outflow of $8.5 billion in tariff refunds in July. Tariffs also raise import costs, create uncertainty for businesses, and invite retaliation. Now, the same question is also playing out beyond trade, including in Trump's confrontation with Iran. Military and economic pressure have so far failed to produce the final settlement Washington wants. The test for Trump, therefore, is not whether he can force countries to negotiate. He has shown that he can, and the real test is whether he can turn that pressure into durable, implemented deals, or whether the tariff war becomes a never-ending negotiating tool.